Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Spectrum Sundays. Today we have Onikage and Larrnell back with us for a second round of some questions to get to know their personality a little better.
Thank you for being on. What has been your favorite memory and maybe your most interesting guest that you've had on your podcast and your YouTube series, The Autistic Delicatessen?
Want to go first, Tony?
Sure. From what I can remember, usually the musicians that make food, for example, our previous guests, Dylan Maurer and the Sauce Boss, they were very memorable guests, especially with Dylan when we kept talking about food and paninis and him making his own foods, and we were just having a laugh, and it's just great. And I love music and food combined together, and also with the Sauce Boss, he also had his own things, his own stories to say and such. And since Sauce Boss's podcast and Dylan is a video episode, I recommend listening/watching them. So
That's a great name, the Sauce Boss.
Oh yeah, I really like does blues and rock, and also he makes his own gumbo on stage and all that stuff. And it's really very good stuff, So yeah, so if you're into gumbo, like and that it has that hot sauce type stuff, So there's that Florida sauce right there.
Yeah. I lived in Pensacola, Florida for a summer. So gumbo was huge down there, and that was my first introduction to it. So when you said gumbo, I was definitely interested.
Wow, yes. Now for me, like it's along the same lines as like Oni, but then I will also say like more of like our humanitarian conversations with like Sunkar in particular with the United Sikhs, as well as like Kawabi about humanitarianism, and also our last conversation with Keith McHenry of Food Not Bombs and all that stuff, which is about like food activism and basically sharing vegan and vegetarian food. Like they've been out to protest, they've been out even to one like with like Black Lives Matter and all that stuff, and even the one recently at the White House where the tear gas, if you've seen the news, all that type of stuff happened and all that stuff, They were okay, but that was a whole thing. But basically having those type of guests and a mixture of that, as well as like Hunter Boudreau, who's on the spectrum and all that stuff, with the Autistic Chef, that was a good conversation that we had, about somebody on the spectrum with food. Like I thought that was good. So yeah, those are my picks.
Awesome. Well, we will look forward to watching some more of those here in the near future. So next, who is an autism self-advocate that you admire?
Let me think. I did have a list of that written down. Where did it go? There we are. I have quite a few, but this isn't a complete list. Actually, Asperling, Yen Perkis, Autistic Not Weird, Crimson Awe, or Autistic Union, Leah Taylor, Agoniotti, Neurodivergent Rebel, Autistic Taylor, the Spectrum Girl, and there's a lot more, but those are the names that popped into my head. There's so many different kinds of advocates and so many different personalities. It's just amazing.
I love it. A few of those I was unfamiliar with, so I'll have to go back and follow them and find them to learn more about them. How about you, Larrnell?
That's kind of tough though, because again, like sometimes like different mindsets and different perspectives on certain things and all that stuff. But people that I'll go to people that like actually Asperling that Onikage mentioned and all that stuff, and of course Neurodivergent Rebel, is a good one and all that stuff. Different perspectives at times, but do appreciate her stuff like Krista Holmans, who's known as that, that comes up. We've already been having very good conversations outside and all that stuff. And of course, Agony Alti has some good content right there, So, I'm trying to think of some others and all that stuff, but really like those are the ones that come to mind right now. But I can't really say anybody that has inspired me, all that stuff in the autism world so far and all that stuff, And I would say like check out like Onikage's blog, because sometimes she has some very interesting content and all that stuff too as well. So I can't forget about her and all that stuff. So it's like, I don't want to like say like, yeah, but I really don't care about what she does. We'll get I'll be a bad host, yeah, and a bad friend. So yeah.
It's all right. I'm used to being invisible in real life anyway, so.
No, but the work that you do and that you're putting out is so important, and it is getting recognized, and we hope that with our series we can even further that.
Thank you.
But something I wanted to touch on is we always focus on individuals who are on the spectrum, but sometimes we forget about the families or friends who are the support system behind that person. So could you tell us a little bit more about how your friends, your family, if you have any siblings, how they influenced your life while you were navigating your diagnosis?
Well, I mentioned in the previous video, that there was someone close to me that said I was a walking textbook, and they were the one who kickstarted my journey to the diagnosis. So that person, you know who you are, that helped me so much and still helps me to this day. My partner as well helps me, supports me when I'm struggling. As an autistic person, I do struggle every day. Varied depending on the day, but he helps me out a lot, so shout out to him. And a lot of my friends, a few of my close friends that are on the spectrum who I've met via communities, local groups and such, they help, they just make me feel grounded, and I hope I make them feel good as well. I show them my special interests, and they're interested, and I get to see what they like and such. And all my friends who I've spoke to through my life, whether I talk to them anymore or not, regardless, they've helped me in one way or another. So it's specific people depending in my life, and there's a few that are consistent, and I thank all those who've helped me help shape who I am.
That's amazing. How about you, Larrnell?
Well, for the first part, like my parents helped me in terms of like the behavioral aspects, being able to talk better and all that stuff, as well as like speech pathologist, and of course like changing the food diet and all that stuff because of the chemical imbalance with autism and all that stuff, which is again a different perspective. So like for those type of years, like they've helped in that way. Really like being around people like Onikage, as well as Neurodivergent Rebel, Krista, and just like other people on the spectrum, like Gwen, who's also on the spectrum too, as well, who lives out in the UK and all that stuff, like learning about, and then also other adults like Karen, who I met in the past, who was the first adult I know that was on the spectrum that first saw me, because she's like a classical guitarist, and she was the first one that saw whatever I did and all that stuff, and saw, oh, you're autistic too, like that type of thing. Because I don't know, like autistic people have a way of recognizing other autistic people. It's just like, okay, all right. So that's what it is, though. But really, like different people in my life, from the non-autistic to the autistic, of course, like I gotta also say like Autism and Music, Patricia Kaiser of that, she will also be a good guest on your show too as well to talk about that organization. Mm-hmm. And really just having me learn about like good advocates, and then on the other side, a person shaping me to be able to like be able to help me in the ways that I am, and to be able to articulate and all that stuff, and then other ways. So yeah, that's one of the things there.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. We definitely know that the community that rallies behind any person is the reason that they're able to strive and thrive in life. So we're so glad to hear that you have that good support system behind you, and friends, family, and all the others to help you. So as you may know, Fran and I are aspiring speech language pathologists. So we are interested in continuously working to improve our field. And Larrnell, I know you mentioned a few times that you had a speech language pathologist growing up. So we wanted to ask if either of you have any positive or negative experiences with an SLP that you could share with us to help us improve in that.
Unfortunately, I did have speech therapy as a child, but unfortunately I don't remember any of the experiences or memories. So unfortunately, it's not my field to see any experiences, unfortunately.
That's okay. So you said you did see a speech pathologist as a kid?
Yeah, I was a speech therapist, but I was really young and I had delayed speech. But I obviously don't remember any of it.
Right,
That's
which is
totally fine.
actually one of the first signs that we see with people who are on the spectrum. So I'm surprised that they hadn't screened you earlier, but at least they caught it a little bit later now. So you're still
Yeah.
getting the support that you need, which is important.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
I would say for me, real quick, it's really been more of, positive experiences with people like speech pathologists because they help me, like, of course, talk better and do exercises and really like having good conversations and be able to connect and all stuff because my times with speech pathologists have been ones that have really tried to like understand and all stuff. So I can't really say I had any bad experiences though, but I would say to anybody that's being an inspiring like an up and coming speech pathologist, I would say like, people who are on the spectrum and people who are special needs of any sort, like try to find good interactive exercises that you can be able to interact with, in terms of like have creative ways of having them learn certain things, because again, like I think the speech pathologists, I think the guidance counselors and all stuff that have been helpful even during my time of certain hard subjects in school and all that stuff. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we're very pleased to hear that you had positive experiences. And Oni, I know that you said you can't quite recall it, but hopefully that means that it was a positive rather than a negative experience. So we're so glad to hear that the people that you have interacted with have been beneficial toward your goals and to get where you are now. And we ask that because we know in my experience, I have heard a few stories of negative experiences with SLPs. So I just want to be aware and acknowledge that sometimes that does happen, but to kind of nip it in the bud and make sure that it doesn't continue to happen. So keeping an open mind and having an individualized treatment plan for that particular person. Larrnell, you kind of hinted to that. So I think that's definitely really important, something that we could keep in mind as professionals.
Definitely.
So in our first episode, we talked about the importance of awareness, but also acceptance. And as we wrap up today, I was just wondering if you had some advice for others to help guide them to practice acceptance on a daily level.
I think like really going back is it's really all about just listening. It's all about like having a conversation and really just understanding because I think like with anything, it helps people become like better advocates when it comes to autism. And also too, like, just truly try to like understand the person, like I would say like whether you're a speech pathologist, whether you're an autism advocate or working for a nonprofit or just like a group of people, it's best to like, when you're dealing with kids, when you're dealing with adults, like really just I would say have a conversation. Just start off with like, hi, I'm so and so. Like, so how are you? And those type of things. I'm not an expert, but because I'm not an expert, but I'm just saying that, do as how you will, like when you meet a new person or something like that. See them as a person first, and then work your way up to other things.
Yeah, and how about you, Onikage?
I think it's just good to do your research and look into what some of the buzzwords mean, like neurodiversity, stimming, masking, and slowly but surely you get it. And if you're not sure, ask questions. There's so many. The resources are growing, and it's amazing what you can find. I'm finding more than what I did when I first got diagnosed, so it's definitely come a long way. So I think that's one of the things I could say is do your research. And if you are autistic and you do see a support centre, give it a try. It may not be for everyone, but at least you say you tried it. And if online alone helps, try that as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that insight. And we encourage everybody to practice acceptance every single day. And let's even take it one step further and get that to an appreciation stage, as Oni mentioned previously in one of our videos. Thank you, Onikage and Larrnell, for visiting with us one more time. And if you did not have a chance to see their original video, please make sure to go back and watch it from a few weeks ago, and make sure to check out the Autistic Delicatessen, coming with new episodes here soon. Thank you everyone for tuning into Spectrum Sundays. We will see you next Sunday at 1 o'clock.